In this video, we'll see how to set up the After Effects user interface to suit your needs, your workflow, and your personal preferences. The After Effects user interface is made up primarily of panels. For example, the project panel, the effect controls panel, the composition panel, and so on. An arrangement of panels is known as a workspace. After Effects comes with several workspaces. You can choose from workspaces by going to Window, Workspace, and here you can choose, let's say, the motion tracking workspace. This puts everything that is useful for motion tracking on the screen and hides everything else. So we have the info, preview, and tracker panels, and of course the timeline panel, composition panel, and project panel, and the layer panel hidden behind the composition panel. If this is not the way that you want your motion tracking workspace, that's okay, because you can change it. For example, you could close the project panel by clicking this X next to the word project. And you could put the layer panel next to the composition panel by dragging the tab on the layer panel and dropping it here in this trapezoidal zone on the side. And if you don't like that change after all, you could dock it instead on the bottom of the composition panel by dropping in the bottom trapezoidal region. Or if you've changed your mind and you would just like them docked together as they were before, you can drop in this rectangular region. If you want to switch between panels that share a frame, you can click between the two tabs, or I find it more convenient to position the mouse pointer over one of the tabs and use the scroll wheel on my mouse to move back and forth between them. This is especially handy when I have several tabs all in the same frame. You can also use keyboard shortcuts. If you go to Window, you can see that there are keyboard shortcuts already assigned to many of the panels, and so pressing a keyboard shortcut opens it and brings it to the front. If you would like to reset a workspace to undo all changes, just go to Workspace, Reset. I'll accept this change. And then we can go back to Standard, which is my preferred workspace, and reset it to its defaults. There are a few preference settings that affect the user interface. Let's take a look at those. Go to Edit, Preferences, Appearance. We can make the user interface darker or lighter with this slider here. I like the default, or just a little bit darker than default. If you click Effects Label Colors, then this darkness slider, or brightness slider rather, affects label colors as well. Pay attention to these label colors when I click this. I like to have my label colors bright no matter how dark my user interface is, so I tend to leave this deselected. Use gradients is strictly aesthetic. If you uncheck Use gradients, then the entire interface becomes a little bit more flat. The primary reason to not use gradients is that showing the gradients in the user interface takes a tiny bit of extra processing power. So if you're trying to improve performance as much as possible, you might want to leave Use gradients off, but I'll leave it back on. Cycle mask colors means that not every mask has the same color. By default, cycle mask colors is off, and so all of my mask paths will appear yellow. But now, with cycle mask colors, the first mask that I draw will be yellow. After that, each will be a different color so that I can easily distinguish them. Use label color for related tabs. Notice here in the tab for the timeline panel, when I click this on and off, it simply puts the label color in the tab for easy recognition. And use label color for layer handles and paths puts a little hint of the label color in various controls for the layer. I'll click OK. So as you can see, the After Effects user interface is very configurable, so that you can set it up to be however you like for your work.